All right, it's a Friday episode. However, you may be listening, YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving, but it is time to get back to basketball. And this weekend features a huge matchup between the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. Two teams exceeding early expectations and both near the top of the Eastern Conference. Matt, first, thank you for joining us. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, not too shabby. Wes, David, pleasure to chat with you guys. I know this is a big matchup that Bulls fans and Heat fans have been looking forward to.
Yeah, I tricked you because we're actually recording this on a Wednesday, you being the
I just
listeners.
assumed that I'm going to have a good Thanksgiving tomorrow.
I like that. I like that optimism. It's good.
Yeah.
Quickly, favorite best side dish for Thanksgiving?
Oh, probably mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. Okay. You can't lose with that. David, what
You
was your
can't.
favorite?
You can't.
Well, I'm Cuban, so we have different side dishes on Thanksgiving that you all
Right.
probably do. But we got rice and beans. That's a good one. White rice,
Ooh,
black beans combo. Can't fail with that.
we have that too because half my parents are Southern, so we've got all the. Even though they do it, they my mom calls it beans and rice, not rice and beans, and that's a point of contention in our household. All right, with all the good stuff out of the way, Matt, can you tell us something? What are the
Probably.
Bulls? What makes the Bulls good?
Let's see. DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, joining Zach LaVine and finally giving Zach LaVine some help. But honestly, I think a lot of people that are maybe somewhat surprised by this Bulls start, who saw them more as a, hopefully play-in team in the East, a lot of them pointed to their defense and say, well, yeah, they'll be able to score, but can they stop anybody? And maybe that was people just lazily looking at the DeMar edition being like, oh, DeMar, yeah, he could score, but defense, terrible,
Mhm.
terrible defense. And kind of simultaneously ignoring the additions of Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, two of the best point of attack defenders in the league. That was one of the Bulls' biggest weaknesses defensively last season. You're seeing Lonzo and Caruso, some of these other not super tall but lengthy defenders like Javonte Green, Derrick Jones Jr., along with Zach LaVine and DeMar themselves buying in to Billy Donovan's defense and at least putting forth some effort with whether it be fighting through screens, making sure that their rotations are where they need to be. The Bulls are a team that are turning teams over and getting out. And with Lonzo Ball and his court vision and all these freak athletes that the new front office have assembled, they're lethal in transition.
Did you see signs of this last season? I know obviously they got a bunch of new players with DeRozan, Lonzo, Caruso, but did you see any signs of this from Billy Donovan's coaching? I think he's doing an awesome job in Chicago, by the way. But did you see signs of it last year?
Well, I mean, some people who were arguing the defense was going to be poor, if you maybe weren't paying attention to the Bulls because they weren't a very good team last season, you would notice that like Billy Donovan had that team finish 12th in defensive rating last season. And a lot of people are like, really? 12th? And other than that, it was hard to see a lot of this coming just because from the roster that the new front office inherited a year and a half ago, Zach LaVine and Kobe White are the only two left. They have flipped this entire roster in the span of a season and an off season. So, once the roster was assembled, you could look at it and say, okay, we're going to be better in this area. We might still struggle with size, et cetera, et cetera. But, when you're talking about the team you were watching last season, this is completely different.
Well, I've got a quick question because as we're recording this on a Wednesday, obviously you'll be welcoming back Nikola Vucevic into the lineup. I know that he was struggling before that. He missed a 7 games due to COVID-19 protocols.
Yeah, he missed their entire West Coast road trip, which was 5 games, and then their home and home back-to-back just this past weekend.
What has been the problem for Vooch integrating himself into Chicago's offense? Because I thought he would be a dynamic addition there. I followed him for years in Orlando when I was covering that team. Such a fantastic passer, such an underrated shooter. I thought it would be a slam dunk. It has not been so far this season. What's been the issue with Vooch?
Well, I think if you're talking about this season, he's just been in a shooting slump. I really think it's not that much more complicated than that. Look, has he taken a different role than the guy he was in Orlando, who was their first and second, options offensively on a nightly basis? Yeah, but I think he, like Zach LaVine and like DeMar DeRozan, embraced that. Maybe Billy Donovan talked about this during training camp and in preseason. They were going to need to take some time to figure out just how the offensive chemistry is going to work. And Vooch was uncharacteristically missing shots he normally makes. Like we saw him turn himself into a viable, pick and pop threat, a floor stretching big over the last couple of years, even shooting 40% from downtown last season. Not only was he not making his threes to start this season before he was in health and safety protocols, but he was missing bunnies around the rim. Like from 0 to 5 feet, it was just like there was a lid on the basket. And I think maybe that shook his confidence and kind of got in his head a little bit. And it's a shame because their last couple of games before he tested positive, he was starting, it looked like, to pull himself out of that shooting slump. So now, starting with this game against the Rockets tonight, Wednesday night, hopefully you could see him pick up back up where he left off. But now you're talking about a guy who's been out for a couple of weeks and was dealing with some COVID symptoms. So probably not, a guy who's fully conditioned at this point and might be kind of starting from scratch. But long term, other than just kind of figuring out where his moments are in a game offensively, along with Zach and DeMar, I'm not that concerned. I think it was just a little shooting slump to start the season.
Well, and Bulls fans have nothing to worry about because Vooch has made like $80 million just off his play against Miami alone. He's put up monster numbers. He pulled down like 20 plus rebounds on several occasions against Miami.
The over-under's always set at like 19 and a half rebounds for Vucevic against Miami. I think anytime also that Jimmy Butler visits Chicago, it's going to be a story. There's meaning to it. I know that Jimmy Butler's obviously played for a couple of different teams between Chicago and Miami, but I think that this version of Jimmy Butler, I think this is the best version of Jimmy Butler. I think this is the best version we've ever seen of him. And I think as a teammate, it's the best he's been. Well, since he's been in Miami, it's the best he's been as a teammate since those early kind of Chicago days before he kind of forced his way out and things kind of, went haywire between him and the front office. But Matt, what's your memories of Jimmy Butler? What's your impression of how Jimmy is playing for Miami right now?
Well, you can't deny that guy is just an absolute force. When you're talking about the best two-way players in the NBA, some might not put him top 10, but, okay, expand that to 15. Jimmy Butler is a force to be reckoned with. And the way that he's built out this offensive game, because when he first came in as a rookie, his first few seasons with the Bulls, sort of like a scrappy kid who played JUCO and then was discovered, had a couple of good years at Marquette. I mean, he was known for defense and having no offensive, arsenal whatsoever. Credit to him for the way that he has built out his offensive game to not only have this reliable mid-range game, attack the basket, get to the free throw line, but the way that he's now also making plays for his teammates, it's really impressive. Yeah. I think Bulls fans, now that it has been that far removed, as you said, like there was a Minnesota stint in there was a Philly stint. Like Bulls fans hate Heat fans still because of the Heatles, and the battles that they had with those underdog Bulls teams that Jimmy was a part of. Personally, I'm happy for Jimmy down there. It seems like he's happy. He always kind of struck me as like a Miami guy, whereas like Bulls fans fell in love with Joakim Noah for calling those Heat people Hollywood as hell. It's like, yeah, Jimmy's kind of always been Hollywood as hell. Once he took that step and was like, oh, I'm a star now. It's like, yeah, just like buy yourself a whole wardrobe of white linen and go hang out on the beach in Miami. Good luck to you.
Wow.
It's a good time. We're all Hollywood as hell down here. It was an accurate assessment from Joakim Noah. David, do you think that Jimmy has a realistic shot at winning MVP?
No, I don't, but I think he should be in the conversation. I think it's not a realistic shot, but he's been so good offensively and defensively. He's such a hub for what Miami can do that he should certainly be talked about amongst the top 5 players in the league. I think he certainly deserves that. I know there's probably some argument that DeRozan should be in that conversation as well. So Matt, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I saw some graphic that NBA put up a couple of weeks ago that had DeRozan as 5th in their early season MVP rankings. It's refreshing, and it's been nice to see DeRozan just be himself in a Bulls jersey to start this. I mean, if you look at his game log through the Bulls' first whatever it's been, 15.
Awesome.
I mean, the guy is just a monster. Not only is he consistently putting up 20-plus point nights to help Zach LaVine carry the offensive load, he's gotten, I want to say 6 or 7 now, 30-plus point nights. And the way that he is just so efficient, operating in the mid-range and getting to his spots I mean, it is beautiful to watch. You guys are probably like me, old enough to remember in the 90s when mid-range, lethal scorers, like just because the league shoots more threes, people want to say that mid-range is dead. Watch DeMar DeRozan play a basketball game and then come back and try and tell me again that mid-range is dead, because DeMar's mid-range and DeMar's ability to get to the free throw line, which was another big hole in this Bulls offense last season, are two of the big reasons the Bulls are winning games. And to his credit, a guy who also gets knocked for, well, mid-range, yes, but he doesn't shoot threes. Never has been, never wanted to make it a part of his game. He ignores the three-point line. It's a small sample size, but on, around 2 or 3 3-point attempts per game, he's flirting with somewhere between 35 and 37% right now. So he's doing it all three levels scoring. And, the defense is still a pass at best. As far as MVP conversation, look, if the Bulls surprise a lot of people and finish with one of the top 2 seeds in the East, which I'm not predicting will happen, but he'll be in the conversation. Like, I agree with you, David. Winning, like Jimmy, probably not, but worthy of being discussed at least.
That's what it's going to take. It's going to take one of these teams for their guy to get MVP, having a better record than one of Milwaukee or Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference. Those presumptive favorites going in. If they can, then you got the narrative behind you. You got the exceeding expectations thing behind you. All that stuff. I've long been a DeMar DeRozan truther. I'm glad that he's finally thriving on a big stage as opposed to Toronto or San Antonio. Don't come after me, Canadians. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the key matchups next. But first, let's talk about Bet Online. It's Thanksgiving, and we all know what that means. Football, and nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. Bet Online has you covered all holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all of the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code Locked On. And it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available for this season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. All right, thank you for making Locked On Heat and Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Not sure how you can listen to both at the same time. Put one on one app, one on the other one. That's how it works. All right, here's what we're going to do, the key matchups. I'm springing this on both of you. We're going to do a draft of the keyest of the key matchups here. David, we'll start with you. What is the keyest of the key matchups for Heat Bulls Saturday night?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's the Vooch Bam matchup. To me, that kind of is a good opportunity for Bam to be a little bit more aggressive, to look to initiate his own offense, which has always been a problem for him. And I think if he gets going early on, then that kind of sets the tempo for Miami. They can kind of work through him. He can attack Vucevic, get him into foul trouble. So I'm curious to see in what kind of shape, as Matt referenced before, that Vooch returns, and we won't know as of this recording. But obviously that's a focal point. So to me, the Bam versus Vooch matchup is integral. And likewise, if Vooch is somehow dialed in and as aggressive as he's been, and somehow finds his rhythm against Miami, something he's been likely to do in the past, then if he can get Bam in foul trouble, then that kind of changes the conversation completely.
It's a mix of styles, isn't it? Because you got Vucevic as the big, brooding, plotting type of center who can obviously space the floor that we know. But Bam is the guy that uses his athleticism, a little bit more finesse, right? This has kind of been the conversation, I think, around Bam for the last couple of years, and around Vucevic a little bit, especially in his days in Orlando. They're so good. They're all-star caliber guys. It feels like they should dictate the pace and the tempo of the game a little bit more, kind of have it played to their identity, their style. And when they do, they're dominant. When they don't, it's a little frustrating. Matt, what is your key matchup that you're looking at?
Well, I think to me, it's a question of who Billy is going to put on Jimmy Butler for the largest stretches of the night. I think he's got some options, but I don't think it'll be mostly Zach or DeMar. If you're talking about positional matchups, maybe one of them being the de facto. I think you're going to see a fair amount of Alex Caruso trying to shut down Jimmy Butler. You might also see some Lonzo Ball on Jimmy Butler, because to me, if you can frustrate Jimmy and not allow him to get to his spots and to get to the free throw line, but stay in front of him, then, you force Bam or Hero or somebody else to beat you. So, because the Bulls are so switchable defensively, I think you're going to see a lot of different looks that Billy's going to throw at Jimmy Butler. But for guys who certainly play above their size, whether you're talking about Alex Caruso, Javonte Green, those two have played huge minutes at technically power forward for the Bulls this season, especially in stretch when Vooch has been out. We also lost Patrick Williams for the season after just a few games. Caruso was guarding Julius Randle against the Knicks on Sunday night and actually doing pretty okay. To me, it's going to be about who can shut down Jimmy Butler when he's trying to orchestrate Miami's offense and get them in their sets.
What is Caruso's status? Because he was out for his last game, but is he back or expected to be back on Wednesday and Saturday?
So after the Wednesday shoot around in Houston, he is, we're a couple hours before tip-off Bulls Rockets right now, Wednesday early evening, listed as available along with Vooch. He was seen wearing a wrist brace of some kind at shoot around on Wednesday morning. So my guess is they'll be cautious. If the Bulls are blowing out the Rockets tonight, Billy will probably keep his minutes short. But after just a one-game absence, it looks like Caruso is back and available again.
All right.
I think the matchups across the board are just so interesting. I mean, between the Heat and the Bulls, this is like the closest thing that the Eastern Conference has to the Spider-Man meme, right? Like both of these teams are just like doing it in the mid-range, super physical, old school type of coaches, old school type of organizations. Everything you're saying about who guards Jimmy Butler, Heat fans could say the same about who guards DeMar DeRozan. I think that Caruso can come off the bench and credibly guard Tyler Hero. I think he's going to give him a hard time. You have Lonzo Ball and Kyle Lowry as like kind of these 3-and-D point guards who are very much pass-first, team-oriented guys, kind of running things for there. You got these all-star caliber centers. You got questionable depth on both sides. Like I'm fascinated by this matchup. I'm fascinated by how this game turns out. Both of you are wrong as far as the key matchups are concerned. All those things I listed, the key matchup has to be the Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan relationship. I just can't wait to see them just like hugging it out, dapping it up at half court, high-fiving, joking, maybe at their foul line. DeRozan's at the foul line. Kyle Lowry's messing with them a little bit. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see because that both teams are going to be going hard. It's going to be a physical game. It's going to be a fun game. But that I think the levity, maybe like the comedic relief is going to be Lowry and DeRozan. I'm looking forward to that more than anything.
You kind of took an easy way out there, but you overlooked the Chicago and Miami versus the NBA and the eventual ruling regarding the acquisition of Lonzo Ball and Kyle Lowry. So that's the
Adam Silver should just come out in the middle of halftime and be like, "Here's the ruling.
Stop the game. Stop the game." Yeah, that would be awesome.
At this point, would you guys agree that either both teams should get a penalty and it should be the same, or they should both not get penalized? I mean, I understand that because sign and trades are more complicated and you announce it at 1 minute after the free agency window officially opens, that clearly there's tampering going on. But like DeMar DeRozan has done countless interviews and podcast appearances and whatnot since the decision to come play for the Bulls, talking about how LeBron was like in his ear pitching and maybe that there were some meetings going on with the Lakers before he even ended up going to the Bulls. So it's like, why is it? Why is it that Chicago and Miami
are results? Because the Bulls are the ones that got Lonzo, because the Heat are the ones that got Lowry. Dallas isn't getting cited for tampering. The Lakers aren't getting cited for tampering. Philly's not getting cited for tampering. I'm sorry that your team's front office couldn't pull it off. Right. This is why you have trade deadline conversations. I don't think that the Heat ever really meant to get Kyle Lowry at the deadline. I really don't. I think if the price were low enough, maybe they would have. I think the Bulls weren't really interested in getting Lonzo Ball at all. I just think there was like, hey, let's just have these trade deadline conversations so we can get the ball rolling on this, so that when we know when all this stuff can actually happen, we already have a deal in place. And by the way, last I checked, 2 GMs talking to each other about potential deals was their job, not tampering. So I'm out on this. I think that I think this is all just a pomp and circumstance. Well, no, we're totally investigating this. Blah blah blah. Adam Silver asked about it the other day. Was like, no, we're totally still investigating this. Like that is so low. I think on Adam Silver's to-do list. I don't think that they're investigating anything. Also, I could be completely wrong. I have no idea.
And the one update we got from Woj, if you can even call it that, from whatever it was a week ago, was like, here's an update. There is no update. It's still ongoing. And it's something about like they might release that they have, reached the conclusion of their investigation soon. And you're like, okay, well, what the heck does soon mean?
Right. I think what'll end up happening, honestly, is a slap on the wrist, because the NBA is postured enough where they can't just be like, yeah, there actually wasn't anything here, guys. Turns out. So they're going to do like hey, we're going to fine you $100,000 or whatever it is. I don't know, $1 million, whatever is a lot of money to these people.
If they want to take some of Grandpa Jerry Reinsdorf's money away from him, hey, no sweat off my back. Like I don't want to lose a pick because, as you guys know, the Bulls gave up some serious draft capital to
Yep.
acquire Vooch at the deadline last season and in the DeMar sign and trade this season. So, losing an additional first round pick on top of that would just seem really brutal and kind of unfair if we're being honest about why is Adam Silver targeting these two teams in particular when clearly everyone tampers and everyone knows that everyone tampers.
Miami has no picks to take away from them,
right?
So they're also concerned about that.
Can we pay the fine in crypto? We got the FTX thing. Can we pay the fine in crypto? All right. I want to talk about the Eastern Conference in general because we've got two teams here that are vying for potentially the Eastern Conference championship, potentially getting to the finals here. We'll talk about that next. But first, let's talk about Built Bar. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Black Friday. Built is going all out to make this Black Friday weekend the most delicious Black Friday that ever was in the history of Black Fridays. It's a lot of Black Fridays. New limited time flavors, new types of bars, and a winter wonderland of a deal. You want high-end deliciousness at a discount all through Black Friday weekend? Get at least 20% off anything and everything at Built.com. All you got to do is enter the promo code LOCKED20. They got a new flavor called Ruby Chocolate Puffs. Marshmallowy goodness covered in a unique chocolate. Ruby chocolate. This has never been done with a Built Bar before. There's dark chocolate, there's white chocolate, and now Ruby chocolate joins the Built Bar Club. If you don't know what Ruby chocolate is, the only way to find out is to buy it and taste it. They also have lemon dipped cheesecake puffs. Love lemon cheesecake? You're going to love these lemon dipped cheesecake puffs. These tangy taste of lemon, sweet cheesecake, and a marshmallowy puff, all covered in chocolate. They also have the new Built Crave Bar. A Built Bar Black Friday weekend isn't complete without the word free. Buy any box of Built Bars through Sunday and get 2 of their brand new candy bars, Built Crave, for free. Built has finally done it. They've come up with a candy bar that is a great alternative to a bar that claims to satisfy. No need to fight angry crowds. No camping out for hours. Your best Black Friday deals are at Built.com. 'Tis the season to save and to give your taste buds the gift of Built Bar. Here's the offer: 20% off Built Bars and 2 free Crave Bars, all at Built.com. Plus, you get 60% off of Built Broth and Built Boost, 40% off of Built Swag. Again, all you have to do is enter that promo code LOCKED20 at Built.com. All right, let's talk about the Eastern Conference in general, guys. Do we believe that the Eastern Conference is legitimately open? I know that Milwaukee has dealt with some injuries. Brooklyn, obviously, no Kyrie, but they still look good. Matt, what do you think? Is the Eastern Conference more open than we had thought going into the season?
I think it's certainly more open than we thought going into, defending champs Milwaukee and Brooklyn, and then everybody else. That's got anybody who watched last NBA season and saw what happened this offseason and what rosters changed and which teams improved, still said Brooklyn and Milwaukee, everyone else. And I think through 20 games, the first quarter of the NBA season, whatever you want to call it, I don't think many people believe that anymore. When you see, yes, you can make the argument that Milwaukee, a lot of their early struggles, and they've already started to right the ship. They're 10-8, they're climbing back up, was just due to the fact that they were missing a lot of their key players. And if healthy, Milwaukee still a favorite. Logically, that makes sense. Brooklyn, I don't know, man. Did people make the Brooklyn right there with Milwaukee assumption with their big three are all playing? Because, I don't know I don't think we're seeing Kyrie take a court at all this season. I think he is not going to play. The question is, are KD and Harden enough? The two of them, plus their surrounding pieces, Harris is a fine player when he's making his shots. LaMarcus Aldridge, I think you're due for some regression as far as I think he's shooting 60% or something crazy, and he's aging. Blake Griffin has just been absolutely terrible. So, I mean, when you look at teams like Chicago, like Miami, like Washington, and then still knowing, Philly's lurking down there, Boston's lurking down there, the Knicks are hanging around. Yeah, I think that the East is open, and that whereas Brooklyn and Milwaukee, if healthy, might still hold a favorable edge, it's not like the years of LeBron in the East where you're like, oh, that team's going to the finals. No, it's open.
David, I know that you and I, just through our conversations, you agree with Matt. But if the East is open, is it Milwaukee and Chicago? Or are there other teams sort of in that mix, kind of opening that door?
Aside from, you mean
Milwaukee
everybody else?
Yeah,
Yeah, Milwaukee and
are these your top 4 guys? Like, are these your top 4 contenders in the East, or is there somebody else that we're leaving out here?
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I think you have to assume that if Philadelphia gets everybody healthy, and who knows what happens with the Ben Simmons saga, if
right.
they are able to get something of value in exchange for him, or if he winds up returning to the lineup, I think you can pencil them in as one of the top 4 teams as well. But overall, I'd say yes, these are the top 4 teams in the league, in the Eastern
Yeah.
Conference. Excuse me.
I don't obviously all the things going on with Philadelphia. Sorry, Knicks fans. Sorry, Hawks fans. Like, you just don't got it this year. It's just not happening. I think that Chicago has some things to work out, right? Defensively, depth wise. I think the Heat depth is a concern for me, I think, too. Can they get that 3-point shooting going in a way that can swing a game and not kind of dig themselves into holes at different points in a game? Matt, what do the Bulls need to address? Is this a trade deadline team? Is there something else that they could do over the course of the season?
I mean, I'm sure that Arturas and Eversley will be active, taking calls, making calls after, the first couple months of the season, and they evaluate, okay, where are we? Obviously, an issue that's staring them in the face every night is a lack of size and front court depth. And you really saw that when Vooch went out for 7 games. I mean, Tony Bradley is a serviceable backup center for maybe 10 to 15 minutes a night. That's about it. And then you got these super small ball lineups that Donovan discovered while Vooch was out, where you're like playing Derek Jones Jr. at the 5, and the Bulls kind of, found their own version of the Hamptons 5. And actually, like, if you look at the net rating numbers of the minutes of those guys on the floor, it's a pretty fun little lineup that could cause some matchup problems for their opponents, depending on who
What's
they're
the
playing.
Hamptons of Chicago?
So I think it would be Lonzo, Caruso, Zach, DeMar, and Derek Jones Jr.
Okay,
That's
you
the
took that
Bulls
as a
Hamptons
basketball
5.
question. I was asking a geography question. Like,
Oh.
what's the whatever? Like, yeah, what's like the fancy part of Chicago?
Yeah, the North Shore 5,
There you go.
I don't know. Yeah, the Millennium Park 5, the Michigan Avenue 5.
The Michigan Avenue 5, I like, actually. I was just in Chicago. I like they have like the planters and the nice
Yeah.
lanterns out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You should use that on your show. You can have it.
So, but to answer the question about a possible trade, I could see it. Bulls fans are firing all cylinders on the trade machine on Twitter already through not even 20 games. And we're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, we got to trade Kobe White, or we got to trade Patrick Williams. We need a big. I think that they won't make any rash decisions, especially if they keep winning with the roster that they have.
Yeah, and I'm with you with Miami. Like, they don't really have any trade pieces, where Chicago, you mentioned some of the guys, like, you can move some of those young guys for a more established player. For Miami, they got nothing really. I mean, you can't really trade KZ Okpala for a meaningful difference maker. They're looking more at like the buyout market. The John Wall name is floated around a lot. Kevin Love is talked about a lot in Miami circles. Like, that tends to be where they're going. But it seems to me that if the East is open, that Miami and Chicago are ripe to kind of get through that door. And if they're going to do it, now's the time to kind of make a move, right? Especially at the deadline. Like, if I think about 2019, when the Heat thought that they had a chance right before that bubble run, they went ahead and acquired Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder, and then ended up being the difference maker for them in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So, all right, let's wrap it up here. Predictions for Saturday night, Matt.
I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be, a classic Chicago-Miami game where defense is going to be, the big focus. And I like you mentioned earlier, maybe it'll also be a bit of an emotional night with DeMar and Kyle playing against each other, a little bit of reunion down there in Miami. And I will say this. Since Jimmy left the Bulls, and I have watched him play against the Bulls many times, he always circles those games on his calendar because whereas he wanted out of Minnesota and he wanted out of Philly, he didn't want out of Chicago. He wanted the big contract, but he wanted to stay and be the guy in Chicago. And even though the front office that traded him away is now gone, I think that chip still exists on Jimmy's shoulders. So I'm expecting a tight game. I'm not going to predict a winner because I think these teams are very evenly matched, but I'm guessing that Jimmy is going to come out with something to prove.
There you go. David, you got a prediction?
The Heat don't necessarily function well on the road, especially with these kinds of circumstances. So to me, I think it's going to be a more likely Chicago win. I think they'll be tired after a 4-game road trip. And while you don't want to use it as an excuse, it just seems like Miami might not be able to adjust to those kinds of matchups as well as we'd like. So I'm seeing a Chicago win in this future.
We know that Kyle Lowry will be hosting the Heat on Thursday for Thanksgiving in his hotel room. He's flying out his private chef. I think and predict a lot of food and a lot to be eaten, a lot of wine to be poured, and a potential
Absolutely.
hangover game for for the Heat. It might take him a couple days to work off that hangover. So I don't know. I'm with Matt. I'm not going to predict wins and losses, but I think it will be a tight game, and I think it'll be a little bit of a slow game. If I'm going to do any betting lines, whatever the over under is on the point total, which I haven't seen it, I'd probably bet the under. It just feels like it's just right for sort of a lazy Saturday night. Let's get out of here type of deal. All right.
And to your point, David, about the Heat being tired, winding down a road trip, it's actually going to be the second night of a back-to-back for the Bulls, who are down in Orlando on Friday night.
Ooh.
So Bulls got to play in Orlando, then fly home and play the Heat on Saturday. So they'll have some tired legs too.
All right.
I still think it's going to be a good game, but we'll see. All right. That'll do it for today's Locked On Heat, Locked On Bulls crossover. Remember to subscribe to new episodes of both Locked On Heat and Locked On Bulls on YouTube or wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. Comment and leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Reach us all on Twitter. You can find all that stuff in the show notes. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen every day. Now go ahead and check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. It's free. It's available on all platforms.